Hi everybody, welcome back to Tales from the Rails. My name is John. I'm a volunteer here at the Southern California Railway Museum. Today we're going to go inside Barn 7 and we're going to check out David Althouse. He's just fired up a Fairbanks locomotive and he's going to tell you all about it. We are at 525 departing bookstore.
This is our 1956 or 1957 Fairbanks Morse H1244. When Fairbanks made this locomotive, they had shortened it up about 3 feet compared to all of the previous H12s. To this day, there are only 2 of these in existence, this one and one down in Frisco, Texas. So our restoring this is extremely important. There will never be another one like it. We picked it up in about 1989, and it was in Vinton, Texas, at Metal Processing Incorporated. They had taken on the task of scrapping a lot of these Fairbanks locomotives, and they kept this one as their shop unit, but we also know that when Metal Processing ran it, they gave it 0 maintenance, other than just put fuel and oil in it and ran it. And it was in terrible condition when we actually ended up with it. We drained the water out, we shut it down, and we didn't try starting it again until a couple of weeks ago. Now that's approximately 30 years that this thing has sat totally shut down. Once we pulled the fuel pumps out, we realized that there was no way that we were going to be able to afford to put new fuel pumps in. The fuel pumps were going to be $15,000 to $20,000 at an absolute minimum. We also found that the injectors, they're an old Pintle style injector, they are totally obsolete, and it's another $20,000 to replace those. We ended up working with a company back east who had just overhauled a Navy ship that had the same engine in it, and they agreed to take our old frozen fuel pump cores and trade us even up with the fuel pumps that had just come out of that Navy ship. Well, they were working beautiful. We put them in, and they worked, and we started it up here a couple of weeks ago, and it just purred like a kitten once it was done. It smoked pretty good when we first started it, but a lot of old engines do that. Once we knew that it was going to be able to operate, the engine was going to be able to operate, we then attempted to make the locomotive move under its own power. Once it was started, they went back in and cleaned up the commutators on the generators. They put it in gear, if you will. In our terms, we loaded it, and it moved back and forth very easily on its own. The commitment after it started the first time was that we would go ahead with the restoration. The restoration is going to consist of painting and cleaning, and the cleaning is absolutely a mess. There are 2 paint schemes. One was a zebra stripe paint scheme, and that was the as-delivered paint scheme. And then in the early 70s, Santa Fe repainted it with yellow on the end and blue in the middle. And that's what the paint scheme was when it was finally retired. We're going to restore it back to a cosmetic restoration. The engine will be working. It's literally pull the paint off, prime it. At this point, I don't know what we're going to paint it. The consensus of a lot of people is a process where we're going to let donors talk about which paint scheme they would prefer, and then we will look at it and see what makes sense. But we're going to let the donors have a voice in this one. If you paint it in a certain configuration, you're really obligated to put the rest of the locomotive back into that configuration. And so far, the only thing that we know that is different between the 2 configurations is this has class lights, and they didn't really have class lights until very late in their life. If we were to go with the zebra, those class lights come off, and we use the removable class lights that go in the little brackets up on the front of the locomotive. So hopefully by the end of next year, we should be pretty far along, and we'll have a lot more to say about that at that time. we need a lot of funds to donate to it. We're looking at $40,000 just for what we know is wrong now with the body and painting, and that does not include the replacing of rings or liners. If that comes into play, we're going to be looking for well over $100,000. If somebody were to donate that kind of money for that project, it would be terrific, and we would do it.
Okay, well now you've seen it. You've seen the Fairbanks locomotive in action. These guys are doing a great job restoring things, but we need help. We need your donations. You can go to the website, socalrailway.org, and click the donate button and help us out.